My clean date is 3/23/17, and it started here. I was arrested for a firearm, heroin, and meth. And I had been a career criminal since I was a kid. Was raised in gangs. And when I come from another state where there's 33 prisons, that prisons were created for us, and that we would die there, and that we had to die with honor, and that was it. And when I came to this jail, and they put me in I had never been in a dorm atmosphere, and I don't know how long. I did over 20 years in maximum security prisons, and I didn't even know if I could function in a dorm. And one of the first experiences that I had was Nicole came in, and we had to color. And I had never been in a jail where I had to color. And so one of the older cats told me, just do it. Shut up and do it. You know what I mean? What could it hurt, you know? So I started drawing. And I started like, kind of, it became therapeutic for me, so to speak, that we had a time to just draw. And so I was here when the dorm shifted from dorm 8 to 10. And I guess it was just a bigger environment. There was lesser transporting you to different classes, and it was just going to help a little bit more. So then we started having the classes in the dorms, and you know, I read a lot of books trying to figure out how to fix my addiction. I averaged 3 books a week for 20 years. And I tried to figure out my addiction. I had been a heroin addict since I was real young, 16 years old. And I had never been in treatment. I never seen anything like a NA. I had never had any experience like that, which is ironic, being a drug addict all my life. And I remember Ken speaking, and he was saying that most addicts had a traumatizing experience that triggers them, you know, and how people lean on the drugs to self-medicate. So I went back to my bunk and I started searching myself. And when I was 8 years old, I shot my neighbor in the eye with a CO2 BB gun. We were playing, and a cop took me to jail. I was in a small town, and they didn't have a juvenile hall. So he took me to the county jail. And the whole way he was, I don't know how else to put this, but he was messing with my mind, and he was telling me, you know, that's an attempted murder. You're never going home. And I was 8 years old, and I remember going into that jail and being 8 years old and having to reach up where they were fingerprinting me and stuff, and the cop kept on telling me stuff like, "You're never gonna see your mother again, man." And I was scared. One of my older homeboys, so to speak, was a trustee there working in the kitchen. And he comes out and he sees me and he tells me, "What happened?" And I'm like, "Man, I shot my neighbor in the eye with a BB gun, man, and I'm never going home, you know?" And he looked at me and he's like, "No matter what happens, you're gonna be all right, man." And he's the one that told me that. He goes, "You gotta accept that these places are designed for us. We will die in these places. You have to die with honor. Remember that." So he went in, he brought me 3 cookies and a little cup of milk in front of the cop. And I remember the cop gave him a dirty look. And he looked at that cop in the eyes and he told him, "I dare you to take those cookies from him right now. Please do." And when I looked at that cop and I saw fear in his eyes, I knew that I would grow up to be like my homeboy. That was my traumatizing experience. From there on, nothing else mattered. I didn't care how many times I went to jail. I didn't care. Nothing mattered from there on. That was my traumatizing experience. And I could never pinpoint that till Kim brought it up in one of those sessions. being in the dorm, I was able to really search myself, and I was trying to figure this out. I'm like, that cop's intentions probably was to try to scare me straight, you know what I mean? He didn't intend to screw me up like that, but it happened, you know? And as I was given an opportunity to go into treatment, I had never experienced that. You know, I had never been around a probation officer that cared. I joked that it took me 50 years to meet a good cop, and Jolene Ghetto was it, right? And anybody who knows me knows that I'm not playing at nothing. When I'm in my addiction, I am not playing. In my sobriety, I'm not playing. In anything that I do, I am not playing. I'm totally committed to it. I can say that the treatment dorm was a whole different experience, and it was a stepping stone to get me focused into making good decisions. After doing 23 years in maximum security prisons and coming into a place like this and given an opportunity to go to Bridges to Change, I remember going to Bridges to Change, and I asked them, what do you want me to do? And they're like, we want you to go to VOA, to go to treatment. We want you to go to NA, and you got to do a chore. I never missed nothing. Not one thing, not one test, not nothing. And I remember the judge asking me, he's like, you know, if you relapse, we can work with you. You come with another gun charge here, you're going to prison. I told him, man, if I mess this up, I won't even argue. You can just send me to prison. You know, there's no questions asked. You know, if I'm stupid enough to mess this up, man, I won't argue. You can just send me to prison. And I was able to find myself in a state of where I had to make some decisions, and I was able to make some positive decisions along the way. Art was one of the things that I kept on doing, and it was something that I learned in the treatment dorm that was therapy. So today I am the reentry director for Victory Outreach. I've been clean less than 3 years. I work at a TPI. I'm a residential advocate. I work with the homeless and the addicts, front lines. I am an interpreter. I work for Passport to Languages. One of the things that I wanted to do was come back in as an interpreter. I'm glad to hear that now they have a bilingual counselor, because that was something that was needed. And as a participant, I tried to fill that spot, and I knew that I could, if somehow be of service, that would be valuable. So I prepared myself for that. I work with young kids in our neighborhood. The church that I go to is in a real bad neighborhood, 162nd and Start. And we've started an outreach that's called The Vibe, where we feed the kids. We've created a safe place for them. As mentors, we connect with the parents and try to give them resources and try to be a positive influence. But my long-term goal is to go into the youth authority and to use the art therapy as an icebreaker with the young men and develop a rapport with them. And I would like to mirror what is happening with the Majert program to the youth authority as far as planning a re-entry plan for those young men. I have a friend that's, he's a Majert product. We were at Bridges at the same time, and to this day he's my associate. And he's the one that came up. He said, you know, if we're going to keep what we have by giving it away, we have to give it to young people. And so we've channeled our energy towards the intervention, towards the prevention with the young kids. We're trying to push our way into the youth authority for the intervention. And we work front lines, man. The place where I work at is, I mean, just yesterday I went to work, and it's downtown. You know, there's a dude slamming heroin right at the door as I'm going into work, and we deal with the front lines. You know, you're on the front lines when on the first day of work they give you CPR training and Narcan, and so those are the things that we're dealing with. But as far as the art therapy is concerned, Jolene kind of got me involved in this project that's happening at one of the county buildings for a mural. And so I'm honored to take a little piece of that. There's some artists working on a mural, and I met with them. I was able to have one come to the Vibe, which is our children's outreach, and he saw what we were doing. I was able to introduce him. He spoke about DCJ money, so I was able to introduce him with Majerp. So he was there on last Thursday, and he got a broader picture of what Majerp was. And so I'm just blessed that today I can sit here. I don't think I have to die in a prison cell anymore. And so, thank you.
So moving.
Thank you.